all is well. Folks, my first guest tonight was a cast member on Saturday Night Live, and he's here tonight to champion a very special cause. I don't know what it is, but I guess we'll find out in a minute. Please give a nice, heartfelt welcome to our pal, Rob Schneider. Now, Rob, we'll get to the cause. You're here to talk about some cause, but we'll get to that in a second. I wanted to ask you first. I see you've got the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue with you.
Yes, I do.
And I guess you hosted some kind of special that was on TV.
2 years in a row now.
2 years in a row.
The Sports Illustrated swimsuit television show that I hosted. And
that's a great gig, I would think, being around those beautiful women.
It is a good gig. But you know what, Conan? I picked up a copy of the magazine yesterday, which, incidentally, I had to pay for. And I'm not in there. I'm not in the magazine.
You thought you'd be in there?
Yes, well, I went to all the places, you know, the Maldives, the Galapagos, you know,
Islands,
or whatever they are. And I went there.
You went with all the models?
With all the models, and I'm not in the magazine. Now, I know they do some airbrushing, but this is ridiculous. I mean, I could show you.
Okay.
Now, here's, I don't know, I think I gave them earlier, some of the pictures.
Yeah, you probably did.
And I'll show you what the before, like, I'll show you what they did after the airbrushing.
Okay.
Here. Can we see? Did you?
I guess here's an airbrushed photo.
Oh, yeah. Now there's after the airbrushing.
Yeah.
After they've messed with the beautiful photo. Now the original was much more interesting. Can we show that? There.
I like that photo. That's nice.
You know, you have to have the confidence to go with it. You know.
I think I've seen that photo before.
Now, there's another one, too. I mean, it just keeps getting worse. I mean,
yeah.
Now, that to me is not as interesting.
That's boring, yeah.
Stick with the original idea. There. Much more... There's contrast to that photo. You know, it's just...
I like the ones you're in. It's more... It's right. There's more going on.
Now, the cover, which they originally went with...
Yeah.
This is the second choice.
Oh, really?
Now, this was the shot, which was the original cover, after the airbrushing.
I'm just curious.
And let me show you what it was. There. There's your cover.
Wow.
There's your cover. You want to sell some magazines? You want to go to 18 different countries? Then have that. That took 2 days to shoot that shot.
You had to eat a lot of ice cream, didn't you?
I'm still carrying the extra 2 pounds from that. That wasn't easy.
Well, I understand.
I had to sit really still for that
I know you did. It looks like hell. I feel bad for you. But I understand. They tell me Rob's coming, but he has a cause that he believes in, he wants to talk about. And I said, hey, he's our pal. He's always good on this show. Whatever you want to say, what's your cause?
Well, thanks, Ken. First of all, I'm not like your other guests. I'm not out here plugging a movie.
Right.
I've got a cause.
Okay. Well, you don't have a movie right now.
I don't have a movie right now. You're right.
But what's the cause?
I have a cause.
Okay.
No, it's hemp. Hemp. The legalization of hemp, growing of hemp.
This is your cause?
Yes, it's... First of all, Conan, it's environmentally friendly. It's the strongest fiber known to man.
Wow.
Some say it's even stronger than steel. That's right. And it's all natural. Doesn't take a lot of water to grow. It's a great thing, hemp.
Sounds good.
There's a lot of other uses for hemp that people don't even know about.
Okay.
For instance, you can smoke it.
That's
right. Also, you can take hemp and make hashish out of it. You can you can get really, really high.
Yeah. Oh, I had no idea.
All these uses.
Incredible.
Yes.
And well, I understand that you brought some products with you, which are. I understand that you brought some products which are made of hemp. Is that right?
Everything I'm wearing, by the way, is made of hemp. All 100% hemp.
This is all hemp?
Look how fashionable. You can go to any formal outing in this hemp.
That's very nice.
Hemp tuxedo.
Yeah. Now, what do you got? Well, show us some stuff.
This is all hemp. You got a hemp candle. You can have that.
Thanks. Not now, Andy.
Hemp soap. Made of, it hurts a little bit, but it's hemp soap.
Okay.
You have this hemp bag, very fashionable. You can give that to your girlfriend.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is a hemp rope. Hemp, very strongest fiber known to man.
Wow, incredible. That's amazing. I didn't know.
Hemp. Hemp.
That's great. Hemp.
This towel is hemp.
Right.
We have This bag is made of hemp.
Okay.
Conan?
Right.
100% hemp.
Right.
Okay. This kitten inside here, 100% hemp.
Made of hemp?
Hemp. You hold on
That's
to that.
incredible.
100% hemp.
Wow, I had no idea they could do that.
Yes.
What? That's amazing.
Now, these are condoms made of hemp.
They're not.
Yes, from
Really?
hemp. Yes, and when you're done using them, you can smoke them and get
Okay,
really, really high off of it. All hemp.
Hang on to those for later. Incredible.
Now, the buttons, of course, are metal.
You know what? This is very informative.
Thank
It's
you.
brave of you to talk about this.
Thank you.
You know, because, I mean, Woody Harrelson, of course, this is his big cause. He's pushing for legalization of hemp, you know.
He what?
That's Woody Harrelson's big cause.
Well, I'm glad that some other celebrities are finally jumping on the bandwagon.
Okay, that's fine. But that's neither here nor there, Rob. The important thing is...
The more, the better, Conan.
Exactly. The important thing is you came out here, you had a lot of funny stuff to say. You're always funny. But I hear that last night you were thinking of not coming on the show. That you were thinking of canceling, and I can't imagine why. You had great stuff.
I called Frank Smiley, and I said, I just don't feel
the
like...
producer who does the segments.
I called Frank, I said, I just don't think I could do it. I called him like midnight. I said, I can't top the last time I was on the show, and I don't, you know, I'm not like your other guests. You know, I want to be better. I want to top the last time.
You don't, I mean, last time was very funny. You came out dressed as Superman.
Superman.
And I don't know who saw this, but you were attached to a cable, and you flew during the segment.
Yes.
That's you flying high over former Mayor Ed Koch, I believe.
Yes.
And you stayed out for the whole show, and we got a lot of great comments about it.
It was fun, and I just didn't feel like this time I could top it.
You don't have to always...
top. I'm not like your other guests, Conan.
You don't...
I want to top it.
Rob, you don't
I need to do more.
No, you don't have to.
I want to.
Well, what do you want to do then? You can't top that.
I know it's tough, but last night, after a few drinks, I said on the Conan O'Brien show, I, Rob Schneider, will douse myself with gasoline and light myself on fire.
Oh, no one wants to see that.
Yeah? Well,
That's not... No, you don't want to... You don't have to do that.
they want to see it. I want to top myself. I care.
You want to see this? You'll get
I'm
killed.
Gonna do it. I'm going to try it.
You don't... Oh,
I've read some magazines about it, and I feel pretty confident. Plus, it's 100% hemp.
Okay, well... honestly,
So I'm ready to do it.
I really don't think you have to do this. I don't want you going... You're going to get hurt. You don't have to do it.
It could look really cool.
Do it. It's
All right,
sweeps.
all right.
Go.
All right, stand back a little bit. Now I'm going to gasoline. I'm going to douse myself right now. Ah, refreshing. Very nice. Okay, now. All right, gasoline. Don't try this at home unless you have the hemp protective garment. All right.
Okay.
Well, I think I've got the child-proof on here. Wait a second. Does somebody have a match? I think I got a little too much gasoline. Can somebody help me with...
Hey, Charlie,
Anybody
help
get
us
a
out
big...
here, will you?
Charlie, give me a light there.
Let me help you out, buddy.
Light him up there.
There you go. Give me a little bit.
I don't know, I'm having a hard time lighting this.
There you go.
No, get me. This is really nice. I like this.
It's all hemp.
It's all hemp, really?
100% hemp, yeah.
That's incredible. And if you can buy this anywhere?
At hemp stores.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we should talk more about that.
Take
You
a
know,
look at
folks,
the
we'll
pants.
take a quick break. Thanks so much for coming on. Rob
was
Schneider,
fun.
everybody. Is this available?
Robert Duvall is one of America's most admired actors. His career started after college and a stint in the Army when he came to New York and enrolled in the neighborhood playhouse. In stage productions, Duvall gained a reputation as an up-and-coming, and he was soon cast in his first film, To Kill a Mockingbird. He has worked steadily ever since. His memorable performances are in films like The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, The Great Santini, and Tender Mercies. His most recent film, A Family Thing, is a project very close to him. Not only does he star in it with James Earl Jones, but he came up with the film's idea and he produced it, and we're pleased to have him here this evening. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Great to have you. Now, how did this idea, A Family Thing also, I should say, is written by the same people
Who wrote One False Move.
One False Move by Carl Franklin. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful film. Billy Bob
Great film.
Thornton and Tom Epperson, both from Arkansas, and they wrote it. Well, when I went with my agency, Todd Harris, over at William Morris, he said, the two guys that would like to write something for you. And I didn't think much about it. Then when I got this idea, I said, well, these are the guys. Because Billy Bob had been the only white member of an all-black band in the South, and for a year had been married to the black girl in One False Move. They're not married now. Plus, but Billy Bob can feel at home with rednecks, but he covers all bases. I call him a hillbilly Orson Welles. He's a very, very gifted guy. He's got a film he directed and starred in. It's terrific. But
now, what's the name of that film?
Some call it A Sling Blade. It's a small film my friend Barry Markowitz shot, and they were in Central Arkansas. We were filming in Memphis. I went over and did a small cameo playing Billy Bob's father. They would come on and visit. It was like it was just terrific. And then we went on to Chicago and they finished. And Billy Bob, he's like what Scorsese and those guys out of New York. He is to now in the future of parts of the South and the world. He's very, very gifted.
So he came to you with the idea and the script?
Well, I kind of had the idea of playing a guy that was part black. I thought it would be interesting. And these guys were the guys that would do it.
They knew how to write it from your idea.
Yeah, my little company, Butcher's Run. We did it with John Callage, a wonderful guy, Frank Mancuso, Becky Pollack. They bought the idea and went with it. And
the idea you wanted to write was what it's like for what?
Well, you know, I haven't said that. People have asked me. It just came to me. I remember saw Gary Oldman play that kind of Rastafarian guy in that movie that Tony Scott directed. It was very interesting. So I thought, kind of a part black guy. Was very interested in what Gary did in that. So I said, maybe it'd be interesting to play a guy that's part black. What it would be like in another set of circumstances. I didn't know what those circumstances would be, but Billy Bob and Tom came up with this wonderful scenario that just kind of led us along, and that John Calley went for right away.
The story is a man who's middle-aged.
Yes.
His mother's last wish is that he go and see his brother who's lived in Chicago.
Well, see what happens when he puts his mother in the ground, he finds out several days later through a letter that's not really his mother.
Right.
That his mother
is in fact
a woman that died having him years ago that was a black lady that worked in the house. So it's a double shock that when he finds out first it's not his mother that he just laid to rest, and that his mother was somebody else.
And that he's been living a white life, and he's in fact
exactly. You know, and when I did it, I couldn't intellectualize. People say, "What is it like? What that would be like?" I can't say that. I don't really know in my head what that would really be like. I just had to go in front of the camera each day and find it moment to moment, whatever that.
There's no way to research it. There's no way. If you're doing Stalin, you can look at films. You can do a lot of stuff.
Marine Corps pilot. You go Lonesome Dove. You can go and hang around. But who do you hang around? I met Greg Williams, the head of the law department at Ohio State University, a wonderful man, who I introduced to James Earl Jones as my newest African American friend. And the next day, James said, "Now, did he? I don't get it. Did he pass? Because he looks no more as a black man that you or I do."
Yeah.
So I could talk to him, but I really couldn't gain any true insights. So I just had to go intuitively each day.
And what did he think of himself, though? Did he think of himself as half
African American?
White, half black?
Well, he called himself as an African American. Although, you know, if he wanted to pass, as they say. There are many strange stories in that, like one I remember doing some research, reading, that, you know, a black family saw a relative come towards him. When he saw them, he turned and ran. And they chased him, never saw him again. Some would be black by night and work as whites by day, you know. And this story, I always say that anything you can concoct in your imagination happened, that fact is much stronger than fiction. And already in Virginia, where I live, there's one story that is almost an exact parallel to this script. And I'm sure many, many instances throughout America, you know, echo this story that Billy Bob and Tom wrote.
How did you get James Earl Jones?
Well, we approached him and
he said this is a great role for you.
Yeah, and he responded to the material. And I had worked with him once before on a Horton Foote project, and we were very excited to get him. He's a wonderful, lovely guy. No, a film, Convicts, a small film in Louisiana. Wonderful guy, wonderful actor. So it was wonderful to have him.
All right, well, let's look at a clip from this. This is, you set this up. This is when you meet and you confront James Earl Jones about his heritage? Just set it up a little bit.
Yes, well, in the letter that's so startling to me that I read to my father and confront him with all this, I don't know. Then my mother asked that I go and find make some kind of peace with this other side of the family that for years has been a hidden secret. So I go to find this quarter or half brother that works on the Chicago police force. And, you know, I very tentatively confront him.
All right, roll tape. Here it is. First thing you produced.
Yeah, my little company, Butcher's Run Films, we produced that along with Randa Haynes and Todd Black, and then UA, you know, MGM with John Calley.
You do this because it's a way for you to do the projects you want to do rather than waiting for just one more
I think so.
You know, to come to you.
Exactly. I have had a wonderful career that's been I've been very fortunate as a hired hand, and sometimes you want a little more control, so you work for a little less money, and then you get something on that you maybe like, and you have a little more control, and it's a little rewarding in another way, you know.
Yeah. Was your father a military man?
Yeah, he was.
Admiral?
Well, he was a retired rear admiral. His active rank, he was a captain, yeah. He went to the Naval Academy when he was 16.
Yeah.
And graduated in 1924. He was off the farm from Northern Virginia.
So you lived in a lot of places, I bet.
Yeah, we did. We moved around.
Yeah.
We were pretty transient.
You ended up in Principia College?
Yeah, in Southern Illinois. Small college that had a terrific little drama department. Just wonderful.
Is that what got you bitten by the acting bug?
Yeah, well, my parents kind of pushed me into it.
They said, you're not going to be a mathematician, or
well,
you're not going to be a nuclear physicist. Maybe acting is good.
It was kind of, I took physics for 8 days. It was kind of an expedient thing to get me through school at the end of the Korean War, to kind of like gracefully get me through school academically, and then I began to really like it, you know. But they were the ones that
What did you like about it?
I just kind of liked something that I suddenly could kind of do well, and I started getting a few A's in school. And the first production was the story of Two Pair Rose by Bill Schneider, a wonderful young writer from, he since teaches in southwestern Tennessee. It was a full-length mime play, the story of Two Pair Rose, where I played a Harlequin clown. It was wonderful. And the man who choreographed it and directed it, Frank Parker at Principia College, he had been a dancer with Pavlova. And it was, and then the Pomeranz, who ran the Gateway Summer Theater in Bellport, Long Island. Yeah. They went to that school. There was just a small group of people, but it was Bobby Morse had gone there, and Ricky Morse. It's wonderful. So it was a wonderful little department.
Speaking of the Gateway, which is still there in Bellport, you did a view from the bridge there.
Yeah, first when I first met Ulu Grossbart. Yeah, and we later did it off Broadway for, you know, on a commercial in a commercial run.
What made you a star? What movie made you a star?
I don't know. I think it was a gradual thing, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think that I had a nice career of various jobs, theater and movies, television, and on this track I had just the Horton Foote projects. Yeah. Starting with The Killing Mockingbird, Tomorrow, The Chase, Tender Mercies, Convicts. Yeah. And Horton's a wonderful ride. Had I never had another career, that would have been a wonderful career. But then I had this career, and I think what made it was a catalyst to put us all into what you might call somewhat of stardom was The Godfather. Yeah. That was, although I'd done stuff before, that kind of propelled guys. Their careers went to a more obvious way than mine did. I've always been kind of a late bloomer. Now I'm kind of reaping the benefits of those earlier years more, because it seemed to me more parts are coming my way now more than ever.
Because why is that?
I don't know. Just maybe it's my time. It's my time.
It's better to come later than earlier, probably.
Yeah, earlier I had a good career too, but it doesn't seem to diminish as I get older, and it doesn't like. I feel more confident, and I always try to be diverse, always have been. And I always told Sanford Meisner when I worked with him at the Neighborhood Play, I said I always would try to think of myself in the potential, always in the potential state. So until I wrap it up, you know, I always look for new things, and fortunately a lot of different things come my way, diverse things.
Does a time come when you're on that track, when you're in the plays, when you're at Sanford Meisner, and a lot of people were there? Hackman was there?
Well, no, they were different. I actually met them. They weren't they were at the Pasadena Playhouse. I knew Gene in New York. We would look for jobs together, and he said, "This guy's going to come with a shock of black hair and sleep on my floor." It was Dustin Hoffman. But we all met in New York. But actually,
you didn't study together.
No, not so much. We went over with Lonnie Chapman for a while. Dusty and I did. But I started out with Sanford Meisner, which was like fear and trembling. You know, it's like ah. But
is that where you learned to act?
Well, it helped. I think I did summer theater before that. You know, I learned certain things from Sanford. I think a certain thing. You know, character acting. I don't think that can be taught. which was stressed over that, which was good, that improvisation, the moment-to-moment work, which I think is so important within the form even. And I think people that left and graduated from Sanford Meisner, some of them lose that. But basically what he taught, and others do too, I'm sure, was within the form of any given text. There's always that ability to improvise within the form and let it go a different way each night or on stage or in film. You know, take 2, take 3, you can go a different way and feel free and relaxed enough to let it go a different way, a spontaneous way within the form.
Francis. Working with Francis, yeah.
Good. It was great.
It was good?
Yeah. See, when I first worked with Francis, it was in the Rain People.
Yeah.
Because I think Rip Torn had been in that, and something happened. They parted ways, and I came in with Jimmy Caan, who it was great to work with. And after that, we all tried out for The Godfather. And he was always a distant. I didn't quite get it with Francis. He was always kind of dark. And I want to write a book someday called The Rushes Are Great, because all directors come out of the Rushes saying how great it is. But Francis would come out forlorn looking. He was
we didn't
always,
get it.
He was always searching, which, you know. And so when we did Godfather 1, he still felt like a stranger to me, but I gained a lot of respect for him, a lot of respect, because there was a standby, understudy director following him around on the set in case they had to fire him. He would take over. And the first AD was this understudy director's best friend. So he really had to work under the gun with the powers that be in Hollywood, Coppola. And I gained a lot of respect for him.
Bob Evans at that time.
Yeah, a lot of people take credit, but that film could have been made in Disney. It could have been made in that studio down in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Yeah,
any place, as long as Francis was directing. It was his film. I don't care what anybody says.
Do you think it's an American classic?
Yeah, I do. Those first two. I mean, that's really fine filmmaking. Wonderful film.
What made it that? The acting, the story?
I don't know. It's just kind of
the idea
in the middle of
that this was a story about America and this was a story about larger than just gangsters.
Yeah, I think it was a bit romanticized. Somebody said when they read the book, they turned the last page to look for an application to join them up. You know, it's a little, but still, it's wonderful filmmaking, and I just think it was a mixture of things. At one point, Jimmy Caan said to Francis, what do you mean? You take all the credit. You don't think we had something to do with it? You know, it's pretty outspoken. But I think that during the making of Godfather 1, from our point of view, maybe eternity-wise, it doesn't mean that much, but I felt we were in something very special that was going to do well. And be
but Pacino was a big risk for him.
Big what?
A risk for Francis.
Well, yeah, they put him in the gang who couldn't shoot straight. Yeah. And then they got him back, and it was a whole thing, and it was kind of, but, he was, I can't think of anybody who could play that part better, except if Travolta was now, then, the last thing he did, he can play that well.
Yeah, this thing, I saw this where he plays a bad guy.
Yeah, the thing, Get Shorty.
Yeah,
terrific.
Oh, Get Shorty's great.
Man.
Yeah, I was doing something else he's done
He
since.
should have won the
Get
Oscar.
Shorty. He should have won the Oscar.
Up. He wasn't even up. Yeah.
But you think he should have won? Best actor should have been in 1996.
Certainly right up there. I mean,
well, why didn't he get nominated?
Who knows? Who knows?
The politics of Hollywood.
Why did the other guy, the guy that did Othello, Lawrence Fishburne, was excellent.
Didn't get nominated either.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, that's whatever.
Why didn't you do Godfather 3?
Well, they said a lot of things about that, but it boiled down to the fact that let's everybody admit they were doing it for money. Why wait 20 years to do Godfather? Francis, well, he was doing it for money. I said, I don't mind taking half of what Pacino gets or whatever. Don't offer me like a fourth of what he gets or what others get. Let's be equal about this. And they wouldn't, so I said, I pass. He came to my farm in Virginia, parked his car, came in, I sat him down in the kitchen. He always wanted my mother's Maryland crab cake recipe. I said, I'm going to cook it for you. And I cooked it. He wanted we talked a little about the When he left, he forgot the recipe. He called me up several times, more concerned that he forgot the crab cake recipe than would I be in Godfather 3.
I said something.
And then when I was in Godfather, he said, well, I made the recipe. I didn't have your recipe, but I made it, and it was as good as yours. I said, no, it wasn't. But I'll give it to him someday.
And then Apocalypse Now came later.
Well, that was after Godfather 2, but it was before. Yeah, exactly. I worked on that for like 6 weeks and then came back 6 months later to finish the first half. I mean, it was really, because Brando came in, the typhoons came. But that was interesting working in the Philippines. That was quite interesting.
Your relationship with Francis is good?
I guess. I haven't seen him in a while. I mean, why not? I mean, we could work together again.
Why isn't he making films?
I think he is, isn't he?
I don't know. I mean, you don't see him.
I happen to like Dracula. Some people maybe didn't. I thought there was some wonderful things in Dracula. I mean, maybe some of his earlier work is better. I don't know. But a guy like that that's so talented, look out, because around the corner he's going to come with something someday.
Yeah, you bet. He's got it to deliver.
Yeah.
He just
I mean, when you
catch
take those two Godfathers, you take Apocalypse Now, and then you take The Conversation with Gene Hackman, where Gene was so great. Well, you know, those are wonderful films. That's about as good as it gets in some areas.
And how many great scripts have you seen in your life?
I don't know. Great? I don't know. You know, it's all so subjective. I mean, we were talking about a terrific script that got made that never wasn't done well, I hear. You know, like Terry Malick, the great director. He used to be a wonderful writer. Now he's coming back. You see scripts sometimes. Somebody said they want to make every year that certain scripts join the 5 best films that never get made.
Yeah.
That some never get made, that are really wonderful scripts. But, you know, I think that there's some really good ones around that you do see, and some get, you know, I love the work of Horton Foote.
Yeah, I do too. Didn't he win a Pulitzer a couple of years ago?
Yeah, he did, for his play. He's just one of the best ever, and he's a good friend, and we've had a wonderful working relationship.
Yeah, I mean, you are to him what, you know, Jason Robards is to O'Neill. Huh?
Well, I find a kinship with his work, and I love Horton's work. Yeah, we've done quite a few things together. I remember when we were doing Convicts, he'd sit there like this, and he'd be reading and writing, and I'd say, Horton, can I try it? Oh, Bobby, try whatever you want. And then he'd watch the tape and say, cut, we go back to reading. And so then we came in one day, I had to sit on a grave and talk about the Convicts, and I said, Horton, we changed the whole thing. I sat on the grave, and I suddenly made believe it was my mother I was sitting on. Because I thought, he said, oh, I like that. I changed the whole concept of the scene at that moment through like an improvisation, but it didn't violate his script. And he's open to that if it's done well, because he's open to, like, he's not so overly protective. He can't let it wander in a certain way, so long as his scenes are preserved, you know, within the form.
Great Santini.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing that. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Did you draw at all on knowing what the military life was like, knowing and understanding the code?
Well, I think so. Some of that sense of being transient once again. You know, we were, I still, that's why I don't mind traveling in the film business. Since I was young, we've always moved. Yeah. And I never grew up with that sometimes wonderful thing of people in cities that have a neighborhood, roots, same friends.
And stuff, yeah.
Never had that. But I think some of that, of moving around, that character was different from my father. My father was quiet and more brooding. That guy was more overt, and when he articulated.
Your mother was effervescent and passionate.
In the book, The Great Santini, they talk about when a military man comes home from a tour of duty, imperceptibly the change of commands goes from the wife to the father for the time he's home till he goes back on duty. Yeah. And my family was never that. My mother ran the show all the time.
Even when he came back.
Yes. Yes, my mother was very strong-willed.
Just listen to this. So, when you think about a career beyond The Godfather and Apocalypse Now and The Great Santini, Network, The Paper, Wrestling Ernest Hemingway, Rambling, you like that one?
Yeah, a lot.
Richard Harris.
Yeah,
it was Richard Harris who I was talking about, who acted with James Earl Jones and another, who was talking about how they sort of, you know.
I loved that movie, and I liked also.
Why'd you love it?
I love that character, that old Cuban guy.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that character. And I like working in Rambling Rose, because there's another wonderful writer, in Martha Coolidge, like in two lady directors. Some woman rights director said, Bobby Duvall working with women directors. I loved it. Working in, Rambling...
Well, they thought you were too tough? You were too...
No,
what?
Women, I don't mind being directed by it as long as they have talent. I mean, you know, like with Martha Coolidge in Rambling Rose, it was like a motherly presence behind the camera. Yeah. And with Randa Haynes behind the camera, it was like a very intelligent, somewhat neurotic sister behind the camera. You know? They're both very talented ladies.
Yeah. Now, do you have a reputation for being tough, demanding, perfectionist?
Well, I like things to go right. I mean, I've had my moments on film with directors, but I think a lot of people do. I try not to make it an indulgent thing, and hopefully it doesn't become that. Whenever you have conflicts, it's hopefully for the betterment of the film.
Yeah, you fight for principle as you see it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes on the spot things flare up, but and then they calm down. But I think it's all part of the work process. Yeah. I've worked with actors who tend to sabotage the thing. It can't be to sabotage the project. It can only be to help it.
Sabotage it on purpose.
Yeah, I won't mention names, but in one instance, it was like sabotaging the project.
Well, that would seem to me if you were on the project, you'd be a little PO'd about that.
Well, but you got to be careful how you handle it. Somebody will quit. You know, I just wanted to get through that experience. It was a strange
and move
experience.
on.
But you know, even if sometimes if it's if things become a little difficult, it's for the betterment of the project, not to be detrimental.
Have any of your projects been just collecting a paycheck, not because you really?
Perhaps. I try to make it not that, but maybe that's some you're more, emotionally involved with than others. I mean, I would have to say my favorite part of all time is Lonesome Dove.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Why? Is it you?
Well, when I met Larry McMurtry years ago, he said I should play Colonel Call, and a lot of people said that. They offered me Call. So I said to my agent, look, you have a good working relation with James Garner. He was going to play Gus. I said, if you call him up, you handle him, and he switches parts, I'll be in this project. Otherwise, I won't. Because my wife, I was separated.
They'd already given it to him.
Well, they had offered. Yeah. Said I'd played parts like Gus on stage, but not in film, more muted. But the people that knew me the best said, no, you're more like Gus. Well, even the author said I should play Call. So he said, I'll get on the phone. So he got on the phone. 4 hours later, he called me. He said, James cannot do this part because he can't be on a horse. He has a bad back. I said, well, go after the other part. Otherwise, I don't want to be in the movie because I've done that part before. Yeah. And Tommy Lee was wonderful, but Tommy was good for that. But I wanted to play this other guy because there's a certain part of me that could play that people hadn't seen, maybe more in theater. So, somebody says, when is going to be another Lonesome Dove? I said, not for another 100 years. This character is like Shakespeare, I think. Wow. I said, let the English play Hamlet in King Lear. That's wonderful. I'll play Augustus McCrae. I mean, he's like a modern-day knight. Well, 1860s, 80s knight by horseback, saving women, loving life. I mean, he's a very indigenous guy to our culture and Texas culture, which Texas is like a separate country anyway.
But you saw yourself in that character.
Yeah, I did.
I felt your sense of passion for life, your obsession with things that.
And it was such good writing; it could draw you along. And I went out in the final. I did research, not a lot. The final person I saw, something told me to go. I went out and found Sammy Baugh, the old quarterback of the Washington Redskins.
Oh yeah.
And just the way he gestured.
Right. I remember Sammy Baugh.
Yeah, to this day, I don't think he knows who I was. We went out and saw him. He's 70 years old. Just the way he gestured, and I see how he threw a pass, and somehow I got these gestures from this guy. We said goodbye to him, shook hands, and I still don't think he knew who we were, really. It was way out in the middle of nowhere in Texas. But he was 70 years old. He was like a Texas Ranger. Straight as an arrow, still a warrior, as an ex-football player.
Yeah. Why wasn't that made into a feature film rather than for television?
I don't know. I guess they figured, and maybe in a way it's better because you couldn't make it. It'd be hard to make an 8-hour film. Yeah. And that way, it was another thing. To develop that character over those 4 episodes was a wonderful luxury because you couldn't do that in a feature film. And, and I think now, I would have gone off Broadway to play that part. But I think the television was the place for that part, at least from a selfish point of view. Yeah. Developing that character.
To really get
absolutely
time
you couldn't
to
do it in
inhabit the character.
Yeah.
Stalin.
Yeah.
You said once, you can't play evil. You have to play behavior.
I think so, yeah. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. Tough, just going over there, everything. Like somebody says, you're going out on history in an anthropological way as an American playing a Russian in a Russian country, And it was very difficult. It was, but I enjoyed the experience in a strange way. I know it had mixed acceptance, and somebody said, "Why did you use accents?" I said, "Well, why?" It was an English guy. I said, "Well, why do you English play in that thing with Sean Connery? All the Russian admirals have English accents. I mean, why shouldn't I give some hint of believability to that?" And I know some people liked it, some didn't like it. But like I was told, and I didn't know he was still living, the senior Mikhailkov, Nikita Mikhailkov's father was like 6'8". He was Stalin's personal poet. Yeah. He's about 88 years old now. And he told Ivan Pasha that he said that I touched the soul of Stalin. So I'm going to believe them rather than the Washington Post or some of these periodicals who really don't know anything about acting, or I'm going to believe that more than I am the negative. Yeah. I'd be in trouble if the reverse were true. He said I was terrible, and these certain other people in these periodicals said.
The critics loved it, and people who knew Stalin said you didn't get it, then you feel worse.
Exactly. And if this guy said that was like a very touching thing.
But do you know what he meant when he said that? Do you know what it was about your performance
I don't know.
That
I don't know
somehow for them said that's Stalin?
I don't know. I just know that it's tough to play in those miniseries because a lot of time you're playing history.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speeches where you end up playing history. You end up playing just a kind of a verbal thing. I do feel that the final scene with my daughter and that's as good as I've ever done, because a lot of it was half improvised. I've made up stuff, and it just went a certain way that I felt was very Russian. Because there was an Armenian actor that said to me, when you play this part, I don't know what this means to this day, but yet I do know what it means. He says, remember the East. That Oriental thing.
Yeah.
So it meant nothing to me, yet it meant something. Somehow that meant something to me. And in that final scene, it all worked. Now, maybe other scenes didn't work as well, but I think maybe in that scene I captured something that would make Mikhailkov say that.
Do you understand anything about his meanness? I mean, his evil?
No, I just finished playing Eichmann.
Which is...
Well, my company, the Little Butcher's Run, with TNT, with a wonderful company to work with. A little easier than HBO. I don't mean to get into politics here, but Turner's outfit and Billy Graham directing. Arliss Howard, wonderful actor, played Malkin. And
you play Adolf Eichmann.
And like the writer said, which is so right, you can't, I can't play evil. He doesn't think of himself as evil, so I can't play that. I have to play a guy that goes to work every day, drinks water, talks to an intelligent talk show host, and comes into a city from Virginia. It's the same kind of thing as Stalin, same thing as Eichmann. He, from his point of view, except maybe on a certain night, he doesn't think of himself as evil.
But here, what's interesting about this character is that you got all those interviews that have been published with Eichmann. You remember? And when they went in there, and there's a guy who was part of the Israeli Department of Justice who interviewed him. And interviewed him, and they got all this stuff, because I've
never got any kind of guilt.
Yeah.
It was all not only following orders, but it was the law of the land. So therefore, he's a strange guy.
Did you understand him at all? I mean, can you understand somebody who's part of the enormity of that
no.
genocide?
So a lot of people say, a lot of people in that position would have done the same. A lot wouldn't have. Look at Watergate on a much less scale. I mean, trivial by comparison. That the guys that bailed out, and the others who didn't went to jail. So there's some point maybe the consequences would be too big if they bailed out within that Nazi syndrome of government. I don't know. But from his point of view, he's not evil, and from Stalin's point of view, he's not evil. So they were just doing their duty, so to speak.
Let me talk a little bit as we close about your obsessions. Horses.
I know hobbies become obsessions, and you try to do them as well as you do your profession. Sometimes you can't, but you try. Arliss Howard called me several years ago and said, what did you do when you were a young actor in between jobs? I said, there's three things: hobbies, hobbies, and more hobbies. Keeps you off of dope, it keeps you out of trouble, keeps you hopefully on the straight and narrow. And you try to go after a hobby with as much passion and
well, that's
you
what I'm
do
getting
your own.
at. So horses, and you did everything with horses, and you in fact come back to it because and you also had an accident very similar to what happened to Christopher Reeve.
I did. My horse flipped Fino. I sold the horse for a lot. It was named after the best tango dancer I ever saw, Fino. And he won a big Grand Prix in Ireland and made a lot of money off him. But before that, when I used to exercise him, went over a small series of jumps. The horse flipped, I flipped, hit on my head. Several days later, I rode in a little horse show locally, and then that night I got a massage, which I think you're not supposed to do. And for the next few weeks, it was pretty uncomfortable sleeping. But fortunately, it was not like what he went through, and I hope that he recovers as quickly as possible.
Tennis, you went obsessed about tennis, and the story is that you not only did you play though, you went to tennis late. I mean, you were middle aged.
I was about 35, 60. Yeah,
35, 60. And you started winning celebrity tournaments. You got
I won some, and doubles.
Yeah.
Doubles. Yeah. Ronnie Holmberg and I beat Chuck McKinley when he was over the hill, and a guy that was 200th in the world. So
Ronnie Holmberg played a lot of
Ronnie
tennis,
was a good friend of mine, and he said, come on there, press the net, he'd coach, and we did pretty good. But I was okay. I wasn't the best in showbiz. I was one of the best.
Who's the best, do you think?
Well, Dabney, I think Coleman was.
Dabney Coleman was, really?
Yeah, he was. I beat him in doubles, but not in single. But he played all his life. And when you play against another actor, you're going to put it forward.
The guy who was in 8 is Enough, the Brady.
Well, no, the best of all was the kid. He beat McEnroe twice in 6 months. Vinnie Van Patten.
Yeah, Van Patten.
Well, that was another level.
That whole family's obsessed by it.
Yeah, Vinnie was, if he'd even stuck to it more, he's a wonderful. That kid could do anything. Ride horse, he could do anything. He's a wonderful athlete.
Tango.
you know, once again, you try to do things when you get older that you know, if you were younger, I think I'd had a really great crack at that. You know, I've
at being a tango dancer?
Well, you know, club dancer, not professional. You know, I do okay. I mean,
so what is it about it, though, for you?
Well, it's just something that, it's just, I can't explain it. It's, you know, without being, I don't want to be pretentious or whatever. I like it very much. I like it only the way they do it in the clubs in Argentina, the milonga, not the professional, not the choreograph. I've written a script on it. I'm going to do it in several years. Connected to two cities, New York and Buenos Aires, to the underworld.
Now you have, don't you have a tango dancer that you in the?
I brought a guy up with me, great guy, Nestor Salvatore Ryan, or he's
teaching.
Well, he's teaching classes in my barn. Before I split up with my wife, we built a beautiful barn. We had a sleep at the wheel play. It's a wonderful place. So he's up giving clinics in tango. His wife came up today.
And you're getting better and better and better and better.
We were, you know, it's like, you know, when you start late on something, but it's something I have a good feel for, and it's like you know, physically I have to warm up because I can't, you know, maybe I think I have to take up a little yoga to get more limber, but, you know, like, I have a good feel for it. I'm what they call a milonguero. You know, I can hold my own. I mean, like club dancer. And this guy, he's a wonderful guy, so I get a little better. And then Danella Maria, also people here who teach. You know, I only hang out with Argentines to learn because it's an ethnic thing. They don't dance it, they walk it. It's a certain way they walk. And the Americans, when they learn the tango, do not want to learn the walk. They want to get the, Americans sometimes they want to get to the fancy stuff, and it's just, there's a simplicity about it. It's very nice. But, you know, I just like it. You try to get a little better and enjoy something. If you have it in a session, you try to enjoy it too, on the best days.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you, sir.
Robert Duvall. A Family Thing with James Earl Jones. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.